Coaching is not about fixing.
We've never been taught how to manage ourselves.
You become the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with.
We have the double of the plastic surgeon per million inhabitants rather than Brazil.
Wow, journaling is so important.
The coach is more like a psychologist in a certain way.
I am not your crutch.
Strong enough to know your value, but soft enough to understand those limits.
But we're dying inside.
What are you doing? You are on planet Earth to do what?
You'll be surprised.
Dr. Matteo Vigo is a leading plastic surgeon in Dubai with over 20 years of experience in breast augmentation and cosmetic surgeries.
He is also one of the first UAE licensed surgeons to perform Mia Femtech, a minimally invasive breast enhancement procedure that delivers natural results with minimal scarring in less than 15 minutes.
Dr. Matteo Vigo, where precision, expertise, and care come together to create life-changing transformations with natural, lasting results.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming back to another episode of Beauty Talks with Dr. Matteo Vigo. Today, we are not going to talk about plastic surgery or medicine in general, but we are talking about the business that is around the doctors and how a doctor can become successful. What is the motivation that brings a doctor to deliver spotless procedures, but also a good customer care service, and how we can achieve our inner purpose to really deliver the message that we want as doctors. So I've invited a friend today, Chiara Ghinolfi. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
So let me introduce a little bit Chiara. Chiara is the founder of Good to Great, which is an executive coaching and training firm that helps managers, CEOs, or other high-level professionals to deliver their message, to understand what they can do better and how they can do better. So I pass the mic to you, and please introduce yourself to my guests and let us know what is your specialty.
I'll gladly do that. Thank you very much for inviting me once again. I was born and bred in Italy in a multicultural family. My mom comes from Czech Republic. My father is Italian. And I always had a passion for, exploring cultures and finding out more about what people do on the other side of the world, which brought me 16 or 17 years back to, living in China with my husband and 2 kids. We set up a company there, and slowly I got myself into human resources, because that was what was really crucial about the company operations. And obviously we all know that when you are delivering a service, which is what the company was at that time, when you're delivering a service, what's most important is people, right? So I was doing HR and reached a point where we had like 750 people under our umbrella. So that was pretty sizable amount of people to manage and take care of. But fast forward, we moved from China to Hong Kong to Singapore and then landed here in Dubai. Fast forward, my HR career was not fulfilling enough, because I think what was really missing was the real human contact, right? And that's what I really strive for, to get in touch with people and help
not only
them.
the corporate day-to-day life of HR, something more personal touch.
Exactly. So, too much admin, too much of that stuff that it's not exactly what I'm passionate about. So I decided to take a leap of faith. And again, I'm not going to bore you with all the details of how I got myself into coaching, but I started, taking some trainings and getting really, really interested in how the human brain works and how can I be of support to people who are, who have like something really deep inside and know how to express it. So 10 years ago, I started coaching and, specialized into social emotional intelligence, became an NLP master, ICF certified, all these acronyms that people generally go like, what?
What is she doing?
What the hell is that? But at the end of the day, what I do is bring people from good to great. So that's why the name of my company is that, because I think it's really clear what I do.
So you take people which are already good, huh?
Yes.
Because you don't want to work from scratches. You need to work with somebody who has already a purpose, who is already a career path designed, but at the same time you want to enhance this career path and bring the best out of them. That's correct?
Yes. And there's an element of, you mentioned purpose, which is something it's really important. And I would like to talk more about that. But it's more about like from good to great, we're all good. You know, this is the main thing that we have to understand. We're all good. We don't need to be fixed. Because obviously what got us here, even though we might think it's not ideal, or, you know, I'm so this, I'm so that, this doesn't work with me, this doesn't work, you know, for that specific reason. But coaching is not about fixing, you know, it's not about fixing something that doesn't work with you. It's about like bringing whatever you have, which is good,
To a higher level.
to a higher level, to a deeper, stronger purpose again, you know. So, and some people come to me and they don't have a goal, they don't have a purpose, and that's what they want to discover, you know, during our sessions.
Because especially, sorry to interrupt
please.
you, I feel that sometimes in nowadays life, people are just rolling in their daily routine without really see what is their potential or putting themselves a goal. I just go to work 9 to 5 and I do this. I see a lot of people stuck in this routine. Maybe, you know, the help of a coach is really to break this routine and say, okay, but what are you doing? You are on planet Earth to do what? So that's maybe my vision. Of course, I'm not a coach, but I think this could be the help that you can deliver to your clients, right?
Absolutely. You know, you mentioned something really powerful. You talked about goals. I've seen throughout, you know, my experience and my years of practice that a lot of people get frustrated because they haven't set a goal. I met just a few days ago a guy who's a trader. He's very wealthy. He's doing super well. And guess what? He's so unhappy. He said he has holes in the floor and the walls of his office because he said, I get really, really frustrated when I lose money and I don't feel any kind of satisfaction when I earn any. And you know, like it really touched me. I said like, wow. This sounds like something where you feel like you're trapped. He said, it pays the bills. I need to do this for a couple more years and then I'll be fine. So it's almost like this race that we put ourselves in to achieve something that we don't really know what that something is.
Yeah, exactly. And it's important for me. And of course, I try to translate this into my life and my career. My mind is always on 1,000 miles per hour. You know me, and you know how much my mind is always racing. But the thing is, I always try to set the next goal because it's what brings me to the next level and next level and next level. If you stay fixed in what you're doing, I'm a easily boring person, easily getting bored person. So I really sometimes, if I don't have a goal, I just wake up and say, okay, today I'm doing good, gonna do that. And I love my job, you know, something that I really, you know how much I love it and how much I do it with passion. But if you do the same thing daily, you become boring. So I understand that why we need to set up a goal, and it's very, very important. And this brings us to a question that I think is important also for our listener. Because we hear now there is a coach and there is a mentor. But what is the difference between the two figures?
That's a very good question.
Because you're not a mentor, you're a coach.
I am a coach, and thank you very much for asking, because that's one of the things that always somehow I see around, like, oh, you know, like, can you mentor me? And I'm like, well, if you are a coach and you want to be mentored on how to become a better coach, on how to improve your skills, sure, I can mentor you. But coaching is a different thing. So coaching and mentoring, how do they differ? Coaching is, well, actually, let me start from mentoring. Mentoring is a relationship that you set up with a person who's more senior in your industry. So let's say you were looking for a mentor. You would go to somebody who has done what you want to do before and has been quite successful at that. Generally speaking, it's very long. It's a long-term relationship, and it's more directive in a way. So the mentor, and don't take this like exactly as it is, but it's more like the mentor will tell you what to do. Not exactly, but kind of, okay? So we would ask question, oh, you know, like, I want to start doing this kind of, in your case, I want to start doing this kind of procedures, or I want to set up a team. I want to set up a clinic. I want to blah, 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 right? So what would you do? You would go to a mentor who has done exactly what you want to do before and has done it successfully.
Okay.
So this is what mentorship is.
So basically, for me, if I have to look for a mentor, I look for a doctor.
Yes, you probably would look for a doctor. Yes, absolutely. So obviously the mentor needs to be an expert in the industry,
Okay.
right? Whereas coaching, I could coach a doctor without being a doctor or knowing anything about medicine at all, you know? So it's a thought-provoking conversation that happens between the coach and the client. So you bring a problem or issue or goal to the table, and the coach will start asking you questions.
Okay.
So that you can start thinking about what you brought to the table in a different way. Because as a coach, I don't know what's working for you. I don't know what your answers are. So if I were to tell you what to do, I'd be putting my thinking, my decisions, my point of view into your life, which is obviously not mine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. No,
so that's the difference, you know?
I'm thinking like, and forgive me, the comparison is
Please.
not appropriate, but the coach is more like a psychologist in a certain way.
Aha. That's another question that a lot of people ask me.
So that gives you the tools to understand your problem. Of course, I don't think you dive into personal problem like, panic attack, anxiety, etc. If are not related to work, I don't think you dive into that. But you give to your clients the tools to understand themselves and to understand how to solve any kind of problem.
So you brought up another great topic. What's the difference between a coach and a psychologist? So first of all, psychologists went through like university and did specific studies, which the coach hasn't.
Yeah.
Okay. The psychologist, and I hope that all the psychologists listening to me will not cringe at this, that tends to look at the past and what caused an issue and solve the issue from the root.
Okay.
Coaching is very goal-oriented.
It's more fast forward.
Exactly. So it's more like looking forward. Okay, this is the issue. We may do a little bit of cleanup because, I've done so many trainings. I'm one of those course junkies who likes to, learn something new every time. And there's always like some course that I have on my desktop. And, at home, my husband, when he sees me like, oh gosh, she's doing another course. But because, I really like to have as much knowledge as possible to add. But
knowledge is power.
Nothing different from what you do, I guess.
Exactly.
So coaching is really goal-oriented. So we may do, as I said, a bit of cleanup, but then it's always like, okay, but then what's next? How do we get there? It's very pragmatic. It's very solution-oriented, whereas a psychology session, a therapy session is more conversational and it can stretch for years. Coaching is very time limited.
What is the average time frame that you work with your clients for?
I would say 6 months.
Okay.
It's not really an answer to what you asked. 6 months is the minimum. I rarely go beyond that unless there is a massive change in what the client is dealing with. So for example, I had a client who worked with me because he wanted to get to the next level, which was C-level. And then suddenly he set up a company. So obviously the set of skills that you need is slightly different.
Exactly.
So we had to stretch the sessions, change the goal a little bit, But generally speaking, it's not I'm not in a coaching relationship with my clients for too long. Otherwise, I become a crutch. That's what I always say. I am not your crutch. So yeah.
Okay, good. So I think that some of my listeners now are thinking, okay, but why he invited her here? So what is the connection between Beauty Talks by Dr. Matteo Vigo and because I'm trying to bring up a topic to many of my colleagues, which is we have been trained for many, many years to do medicine, to learn how to read a X-ray, to read a blood test, to make a surgery, to treat a patient, but we've never been taught how to manage ourselves, how to become a businessman, because unfortunately, even the healthcare system now is a business system at the moment, especially in Dubai, where everything is private. How you can negotiate better, for example, with the clinic you are signing a contract with, how you can find a better job opportunity, how you can market yourself, how you can brand yourself. So why do you think, this is the reason why I invited you. I want you to explain to us, why do you think that coaching is important for the healthcare system, for doctors especially?
It's a very good question. You talked about knowing yourself better. Yes, it's very important. It's the so-called self-awareness, right? Just a quick detail about what I also do, which I forgot to mention. I have certified in being a social emotional intelligence coach and trainer. Why am I saying this? There's 26 competencies that I work on with my clients, which are crucial to anyone who wants to really achieve the next level, who wants to go from good to great.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I think that coaching is very important. First of all, because obviously I'm being a coach, I think that it's very important, and it's important for anyone. Specifically for the doctors, it's something that really helps you to gain that, that self-power, like the sense of self, right? So who am I? Starting from the identity, who am I? What am I here for? So why? Why are you doing this? Why are you even doctor? Why didn't you choose to become somebody else, as a profession? And it's very important to reflect on those kind of things, because you might be really, really good at something, but if you don't hit your why, if you don't know what you're passionate about, really good at, what's your, like the so-called ikigai, which is something that was very popular a couple of years back, talking about passion, mission, vocation, and profession, right? And how these intersect. And if you bring all of them together, you find your so-called ikigai. So if you can bring all of this together, where you do what you love, you do what you're good at, you deliver something the world needs, and obviously you monetize on that, right? So working with a coach really helps you to understand all of these things, because, like sitting down at a table and starting, to ask yourself questions, it's not really that easy, right? And
I feel so embarrassed when, I did a coaching, not with you, I met you afterwards.
Right.
I did some coaching in the past, and when they asked questions, I said, really? What can I answer? It's question I never thought I need to answer, but that helped me a lot to become who I am now. Definitely.
Right. And obviously, when you are sitting with someone, and it's a partnership, right? You and I, as coach and client, would partner up. We're working towards the same goal. You're not sitting there and trying to look good, with me. No. Or, there's no judgment. I really don't care what my clients do and think. It's nothing that affects me. I'm there for them to win whatever game they're playing.
Yeah.
But obviously, when you get asked a question and you try to, there's a word that I cannot use here, but when you try to tell a different story, right? When you try to tell a different story, I have the role of telling you, are you sure about that? And then you can't really, I don't want to say lie, because that's not about lying. It's just a form of protection, like trying to, this is who I am. This is what I'm showing to the world. And I don't want anyone to see what's really inside. How many times have we experienced that? That we go out and we try to, act in a way that we think it's appropriate for the situation.
Yeah.
But we're dying inside, right? It's really like...
I have a question, sorry to interrupt you, but how long does it take to you to understand your client? I mean, I work with people, I work with patients. So they come in and after 20 years of my job, in like 10 minutes, I immediately understand it's the kind of patient which has normal goals, normal beauty concept, or this patient is a little bit over the top. They want something which is not reachable. The expectations are too high. They maybe have some psychological issue because I have patients, especially the body dysmorphia or something.
Absolutely.
It's a very important thing. So I can understand that. And I have like 10 minutes because my consultation time is 30,
Limited,
45 minutes. And I need to understand immediately who I'm talking to, the way I need to talk, etc., etc. But for you, it's broader the things because, again, you don't come and talk about, I want a boob job, and we talk about that. They come with the issue that are, scaled on different topics. How long does it take for you to get to know them?
That's another very good question. Very good question.
I can open a TV show on that. I'm a good interviewer.
You're very good. You're asking really good questions. Look, to answer this, I think I need to touch lightly on trust. Trust is something that may take very little time to establish or longer time. And, it took me a while to understand this because at the beginning, I made it about me. Oh, why? Why can't they trust me? Why can't they open up and all of that? Early on in practice, I'm sure that this happened to all of us, right? At the beginning,
definitely.
we think and we strive for perfection and we have this image of we have to do this and this is how it should flow and all of that. Probably with time, I grew compassionate with myself.
Yeah.
And not having any expectation on how the conversation should go. And the more I let go of needing to know about who I'm sitting with, the more the people open up to me. So, and why did I mention trust? Because it's something that takes, for some people, it takes really long time. Trust, it's not about me, like the person who the trust is landing on, but it's about the person who's giving trust. Sometimes,
maybe they've been, betrayed in the past. And,
Absolutely. So I have clients who, in a cafe, told me things that were honestly shocking, really, really shocking. Opened up 2 seconds, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, okay. Some others take longer, and longer means that maybe they will never share something which we both may know, but it's untold. Does this make any sense to you?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And it's almost like a gut connection that happens, right? And I don't need to know,
But you know that there is something hidden.
Yes, and if the person is struggling to share it, it's always very important to respect the space the client wants to preserve. I'm not a psychologist. A psychologist would dive deeper and probably, I don't know, I'm sorry again. If no, I would never do that.
By the way, next week I have a psychologist
Yeah.
as a guest.
It's like, last week that person was talking about me.
I will ask her about this thing of coaching for sure. It's interesting to see the other side of the...
Right. But see, this is for another environment. My goal is to bring the person to the, best possible level achievable. And to do that, sometimes it's about like removing barriers. It's about like reframing. It's about like looking at limiting beliefs and all of that without having to dive into what happened when you were 4, So again, to go back to your initial answer, it really depends. It really depends.
And you combine sometimes your coaching with the suggestion to maybe dive into the past with a psychologist.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I do cooperate with psychologists.
Because it's important, because again, if you work on 2 different levels,
Absolutely.
You can be the best coach ever. But if people have unsolved things from the past, and many of us has, for many different reasons, we cannot progress.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's important.
So it happened many times that I had a conversation where I said, I think we're stuck here. There's something that needs to be addressed. And that's one of the things that I say on day one. Look, if there's anything that I feel it's not...
in my scope of work,
I will make a suggestion to go and see somebody to help you with that specific topic. Obviously, it's on the client to then...
accept it or not.
Go and take action or not. And I do have psychologists who refer people to me because it's just really a completely different kind of work. So we do cooperate. I have a few I cooperate with. One was in Singapore. We were just like, can you help me with this one? Oh, yeah, and all of that. Because it's just a different approach.
Yeah. And because you mentioned now that you compare somebody in Singapore, are your client mainly in presence or online?
You'd be surprised. I have a few clients who are Dubai-based and want to meet online.
That's Dubai lifestyle. We know that Dubai
exactly.
is
Oh,
running
there's too
different.
much traffic. Let's do it online. It depends on, a specific time. Right now, it's a good mixture, but sometimes, I barely see anyone in person. Some other times is mostly in person. It's really mixed. It depends on what happens in that specific time, because me not having clients that I work with for a very long time, what I'm going to answer you today in 6 months could be completely different. So at the moment, it's a rather good mixture. Yeah.
Coming back to my initial question, the reason why you're here, because we can talk about the coaching for like 3 hours maybe.
Right.
I know that you're very
Absolutely.
passionate about that.
Yeah, I am.
But regarding the doctors, so we said the why.
Yeah.
And I think most doctors have, in a certain way, quite clear the why. I love medicine. I want to help people. I want to. But the why is not only why you're doing this. So why you want to become better. What is missing for you to become better and to become structured in your career? Because I see a lot of my colleagues that I think I'm a little bit forward compared to the average of the doctors here. Not in surgical skill, I'm not talking about that, but in vision, the way, the project, the goals that I set for myself. And I'm very happy and proud to say that I nailed most of them, because I really work hard, and sometimes with the help of a coach, sometimes just by myself, to create this. So why do you think a doctor needs your help?
Well, I said, just to have that conversation and understand. And when you share that most people know their why, you'll be surprised.
How many they don't know?
The why of, I want to help others. It's very
generic.
ChatGPT.
What is my why, please?
What is my why? But what is your why?
Yeah.
I'm sure that if we, if we really sat down and went deeper, drilled down into what your why is as a person, as a doctor, there will be more than I want to help others.
Yeah, definitely.
There's definitely more, because I want to help others can relate to, 90% of the world, But why do you want to be a doctor that does what you do? Actually, most people will look for a product, will look how to sell it, and then will focus on the why, which is the exact opposite of what should be done. Why are you doing what you're doing? Okay. And then how can you do it? So the why is the purpose, right? The conversation that we just had. And then how? How is based on finding out what your values are, what your skills are, what the things that you have and the things that you need are. And again, this seems like this is no rocket science. Anything I talk about with my clients and discuss with my clients is no rocket science, honestly. But it's just bringing that conversation and being quote unquote forced to think about it and reflect, and having a thought-provoking conversation is what makes the difference. So it's really that bouncing back and forth of thoughts, doubts, fears. There's a ridiculous amount of fears that we sometimes struggle to mention and to face.
I think it's very, very big. Let's say the word, let's say the brain of a person and the thought space of the person that you need to dig into that. So, of course, you need to understand again your why. But then the next question comes. Okay, I work with you. You let me help. You help me to understand my why. And now,
the why, then the understanding the values and the skills, what you need and what you have. And then I think that what is very, very important is who you surround yourself with.
Okay, yeah.
Because this is, I'm sorry, I don't know who to quote. I don't remember who said that, but somebody said, you become the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So if you're trying to be healthy and your 5 friends who you spend most of the time with go to fast foods, fast food restaurants and eat fried food every time they meet, and like consume a lot of alcohol,
soft diet
or soft drinks, and all of that, and don't go to the gym, don't do any kind of sports. What do you think will happen in the long run, right? So what will happen is that you will adapt, because our brain strives for the path of least resistance, right? So whatever is easier and doesn't require too much effort is the kind of path that we're going to go along. If you surround yourself with gym bros, and people who are careful about what they nourish their body and minds with, because mind you, it's, like when we talk about healthy habits, a lot of people think that, they buy kale, they eat only organic and all of that, and then they talk gossip nonstop. That's like, please go to, fast foods. It's the same. So that's also very important, is how you nourish your mind, body, and soul. And to do this, it's really about who you surround yourself with.
But also, I've read something about similar quote saying that if you surround yourself with people who have goals, you will be pushed to set a goal for yourself.
Absolutely.
So if you set somebody again who just finish the 9-5 job, go back home, turn the TV and watch Netflix all night and eat crappy food, and they don't have a goal for the next. What are you doing next weekend? I don't know. I will see. For example, oh no, I'm going to a trip to this country. I'm gonna train for this kind of thing. You have really the support, and you really have the energy to do yourself, because you copy also what you see, what is around you.
Right. And of course, there's that little element of competition that's always healthy, in my opinion, obviously when it is healthy. So if you go to the gym and you're going with a friend who's more or less at the same kind of fitness level as you, of course, if you go with you just started and you go with somebody who's been lifting for 20 years,
of course,
competing with that person is just unreasonable, right?
And frustrating.
Exactly, very, for sure. But if you go with somebody who's, started at the same time as you did, more or less the same kind of level of fitness, it's always pushing each other, who is the person that brings the gold out of you? Who's the person who lifts you up? Who's the person who's really, really supporting you? Who's the person that
is a go-to if you have a problem?
Yes, exactly. He's happy when you are successful. Who's that person? That's the person that you want to have around yourself.
That's why we became friends.
Exactly.
Because we have the same vision on this thing.
Absolutely,
We are very focus-oriented, goal-oriented. We live our life on a high speed, and we are always surrounded by people who really can give us something extra.
Absolutely.
Because I don't want to have next to me the person who gives me the same crap every day.
Right.
I'm sorry. I want somebody who really push me to do better.
Absolutely.
And even if, again, we don't work together, you don't coach me in this sense, but I can learn from you. Anytime you say something, I learn from you. And I think you learn from me from other aspects.
Absolutely.
We were discussing recently about your social media, and I said, you should tweak this, because I'm a little bit geek in the social media.
Right.
So I'll try. So it's a given and taking that is really important, because at the end, nourish relationship with the person, but also who you are.
Absolutely.
And this is what also I see from many doctors. And again, I come back to my field because it's, for me, it's very important. And they don't understand this. They always look for, where is the place that pays me more? What is the place where I don't have less trouble? Where is the place where I have the best assistant? No. What is your place that you create around yourself to be in the best position ever? And we dive back also into the brand problem, because we had a huge brand problem here. Because in plastic surgery, for example, Dubai, the competition is fierce. We have the double of the plastic surgeon per million inhabitant rather than Brazil, which is the house of plastic surgery, as we all know. So there are a lot of doctors here, a lot of concentration. How can you stand out? And again, is having your why and showing to people your why.
Absolutely.
Because what I'm doing also now on my social media is telling them not, okay, I do a tummy tuck, I do a breast augmentation, I do a blepharoplasty, this is the technique, this is that. People get bored of that. I said, I do this because look at this. This changed my patient's life. This has, so I give you my why and I deliver this message, and I think it's what really the patient feels and feel comfortable with me. So it's about the branding. It's about how you really want to be acknowledged for and to be known for. And yes, of course, then you have to be, as you said before, you need to have the to do something that you're good at, because if then you're not a good doctor, don't brand yourself.
Right.
But if you know that you're delivering good results, how can you elevate your career to the next level? And how can you also bring your value to a negotiation? Because I think you do also this supporting path when some of your clients needs to negotiate a better contract or a new position at work. It's not easy.
To offer something around what you just talked about. Again, we go back to one of the 26 competencies that I mentioned earlier, and it's personal power. It's the most important of all the competencies that we have in social emotional intelligence. Why? Because if you are a lion and then you look in the mirror and you see a cat, it's going to be difficult. People will perceive the cat. They will not see the lion because you are, giving that bit of yourself out, the doubts and, am I good enough? It's that self-doubting that doesn't work, right? So personal power is the first thing to work on. Once you know your value and you have all the strategies in place to make sure that they're anchored, because that's very important.
Yes, of course.
You anchor this value, that self-worth, then when you sit in a conversation with somebody and you need to negotiate your fees, for example, the person will say whatever, but your worth. And if give me a discount, it's like, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
well, actually,
definitely.
I'm not. So it's really important to know what's your value and that you are worth every single bit of that. And when you become authentic and generous and compassionate with yourself, the rest of the world will see that. And it will be so much easier to see your value, external value, increase.
Yeah,
100%.
And also, I like the mirror example that you did, because there are a lot of people around that are cats and look at themselves, they see a lion.
Absolutely.
And in a certain way, I envy them because they're really good at pretending to be what they're not. But at the same time, then they go out and then when they need to, roar, they just meow. And you see that in the result that they're delivering in the thing. So even in my field, you see these doctors, oh my God, this is the best one. But then what is really delivering and the quality of it is really, minimal. So it's a very good combination of the lion and the cat to be, strong enough to know your value, but soft enough to understand those limits. Because not all of us are lions.
Well, look, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly, no, absolutely. It's.
Being ambitious and wanting to achieve big goals and all of that, it's a thing that not everybody really wants. And sometimes what happens is also people feel pushed to achieve certain goals
From the society.
because societal rules, you're in that position, you should strive for this kind of role. No, I worked with another client who at some point managed to admit to herself, I don't really want to, make extra steps within the company. But she came with big goals and all of that. I'm like, okay, sure. When you ask me how long does it take you? It depends on how much I'm told, right? So, but that attempt to, make it look like, oh, this is what I want.
And then it's not.
But it wasn't. So when I work on goals with my clients, there's a very good model called the specify model, which is not the SMART model, because the SMART model is like a water, drinking water, which is good, hydrates, but it doesn't, in this case, make a massive difference.
Okay.
Like when there's a fire, you can't go with a glass of water. You need like the firefighters. And within this model, there's an element that we look at, which is the goal needs to be personal. It needs to be yours. If it's not yours, there is no way, absolutely no way you will achieve it, because your brain will fight against it. So do I really want this? Yes or no? Or is it my husband, my wife, my family, my colleagues that are pushing me to achieve that, but I really deep inside don't want to do that? And the minute you admit it to yourself, the weight that it gets off your shoulder is insane.
Yes,
like,
I can imagine.
oh, now I can finally be, like the employee that works in the company in a blah to blah, job, earn my salary, do the typical career progression, which is not pushed by any kind of force that comes from cultural stereotypes, and enjoy my weekends. I don't want the extra responsibility. That was so liberating for this person.
I can imagine.
To understand that actually I don't want to do that.
So I think it's important to go back quickly and say, okay, not everybody wants to achieve this goal.
Absolutely.
But you need to sit down and understand what you want.
Exactly.
I said, this person came to you and she wanted to reach there, and then she decided,
Right.
no, I don't want. But if you don't have this day-to-day chat with yourself, understand yourself, that's the most important thing.
It's
And I
very
think also
important,
in the medical field, we are so caught into the responsibility that we have towards the patients, the hard job that we are doing. Some of my colleagues are doing night shifts, so of course the sleep pathway is a little bit messed up. And it's important, in my opinion, to have someone who guides you. That's why I brought you here today, because I wanted to explain what you just did brilliantly, that we need this like little angel and the devil that is next to us and tell us things to do and suggest a thought-provoking conversation that suggests, okay, why don't you think about it? Sometimes, I've stuck in the evening and I said, okay, what did I do today? Yes, I did this, but what was the goal? And having someone who can, let you sit down and reflect is very important. So I want to deliver this message to my colleagues and the words of healthcare, just to listen to your inner self a little bit, slow down and find your why, find your people that you want to surround with. And I think this is the most powerful message we can send out to our listener today, right?
I would say so.
Okay. If you have anything else to add, then we close the episode today. What would you suggest to a person that doesn't know how they can find the best coach for themselves?
Well, again, I might be biased.
You are the best coach I know.
I might be biased, but if you're looking for a coach, you have one here. Look, coaching, and jokes apart, coaching is, there's loads of really good coaches around, like loads of good doctors and all of that. But I think that what really makes a difference is that chemistry that
empathy,
happens when you have the first conversation. Like most of us will offer a discovery session for free, because obviously I'm not going to lock you in a program where you don't know if you actually like working with me, and that's also a fact, I also need to understand if I want to work with that client, So find a coach that offers a discovery session, understand what is the chemistry happening there, discuss your goal, and get a sense of how the process will be if you haven't done coaching before, because some people don't know what coaching is. They will come, oh, can you mentor me? No, it's not exactly what I do. But I think that if I may just give one suggestion that people can start implementing right now, and this will sound very obvious, is journaling. It's so important. It's so important because it's a space for us to reflect on ourselves. And we can be honest because nobody's reading, so we don't feel judged.
I will go and buy a diary today.
Right.
To write my
Oh gosh, I should have brought you mine. I thought I'll do that. I'll take care of that.
I think it's a very important suggestion.
And take a moment at the end of the day. So journaling can be done in the morning, in the evening. I mean, there's many ways to do it. Some people ask me, I don't know how to journal. And I said, so write down, I don't know what to write. Just start writing, I don't know what to write. Give yourself, say, 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to take a half an hour. Literally 5 minutes on the, set the timer for 5 minutes, start writing. If you don't know what to write, just write, I don't know what to write. Your brain will get bored of, I don't know what to write, at one point, and then we'll start, reflecting. But definitely dedicate just a few moments, 3 bullet points every evening, and write what you're grateful for, what went really well during your day. Something like a pat on the back, on the shoulder, that we give ourselves. Because with high achievers, this is what happens. What's next? What's next? What's next? And we don't take the time to celebrate, even for just one tiny second, our successes. And this is, a big thing for burnout and feeling stressed and feeling like I'm never doing enough. It's just sometimes saying okay, what went really well today? And then taking the time, acknowledging yourself, and that's it.
On this great suggestion, I would like to thank you again for being here. We
Thank
might
you
do,
for having me.
other sessions with our listener. And so thank you again to Chiara Ghinolfi. She's the founder of Good to Great, which is her coaching company and training. I'm Dr. Matteo Vigo. Thank you for following our episode. If you like it, please put a like, subscribe to my channel, because more and more guests are on the list. Next week, I have to record 3 very interesting sessions, so I'm very excited to share with my guests. I'll see you next episode, and thank you again to watch this episode with me. See you! Because you deserve the best.